in a completely Caucasian Western missionary world. My parents started as missionaries in Singapore and then in Taiwan. And so I grew up on the mission field as a missionary kid in Asia. Now, I went back to America. I was born in America, but at the early age of 4, I was in Asia most of my life. Came back to America for college. I went to Wheaton College, and I worked as a computer programmer for a few years. But while I was in college, God captured my heart for missions. And so 1987, there was a big conference, 20,000 young people came together, called Urbana. And 1987 was my junior year in college, and I knew my parents were missionaries, but I wanted not to be a missionary. I wanted to make a lot of money, and I wanted to be a rich Christian businessman, because I wanted to go to heaven, but I also wanted to enjoy life on this earth. So at that time, I was thinking, what major should I major in that would make the most money? And in those days, it was computer science. So I went into, I still wanted to be a Christian. I respected my parents, but I wanted to make a lot of money and then give my money to missions. That was my mindset when I first came back to America. But God captured my heart my junior year in college. And that's why, a reason why I want to share with you that is because right around college age, right around when they're young, my wife is actually, Jackie, you've met her just now. She caught her mission and her ministry vision actually in high school. When you're young and you give your life to missions, that's going to change the whole direction of your life. So I gave my life to missions at that time, 1987, 1990, they had this big conference. I gave my life to China, because China at that time was, if you remember, Tiananmen Square 1989, China was under turmoil, and the young people were fighting for something new, and I wanted to bring the gospel to China. So I gave my life to China at a very young age. However, I knew that the Lord wanted to prepare me first, so I went to seminary. I went to Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary in Boston, and then after seminary, and during seminary, I worked as a youth or a college pastor, college minister. I worked with college students. And in Boston, if you know Boston, Boston is where a lot of students are. MIT, Harvard, Wellesley, Boston University, Boston College, Rutgers. A lot of college students in Boston. So I started to work with college students. And what I noticed is college students, they're very eager to learn about God. And so we had a college ministry, about 100 college students. But what I wanted to do is get college students excited for God, but excited for missions. So I would take college students every summer for 6 weeks to China to start to teach English, to give them a vision. It's not just being a good Christian in Boston, to make a lot of money. A lot of them were MIT. We had about 50 students from MIT. They're the smartest kids in the world. They could eventually make lots of money, but I challenged them, consider giving your life to missions. Many are still doing really well and working in Google, working in Amazon, working in some of the top computer companies in Silicon Valley. But many of them also gave their lives to missions. And those, in those early days, even those who stayed here in America have been really mission-minded. And the message I want to share with Seth, Pastor Seth and I, will eventually, he will also share, is that if you want to reach young people in your church and in Nepal, and you say, well, we want to attract them to our church, and we have church program, we have discipleship, we have many exciting things, have a good worship team, good prayer, whatever. But I'm going to say the thing that to attract young people to the church and to God's purpose is really missions. Now, not everyone is called to be a missionary. We all know that. The Apostle Paul was the apostle to the Gentiles, and he was called to reach non-Jews. But the Apostle Peter is apostle to the Jews, and so he was called to raise up a healthy church in Jerusalem. And so you had the Antioch church being the church that sends out Apostle Paul, and we need both. We need Peter's and we need Paul's. But my challenge to Nepalese churches, we have a lot of Peters in Nepal. And I'm sure there's a lot of need in Nepal. And within Nepal, I'm sure there's many people groups to reach. But there's areas in Nepal and in South Asia, Southeast Asia, that still need the gospel. And we need the Apostle Paul's coming from the Nepalese church to reach those with no gospel. So this is what Arise Asia is now. We're in a new time to get young people, to capture their hearts, to give them a vision for the kingdom beyond our own context. So that's why we have been working on this. I gave my life to China. We were there for 9 years, and then we were in Taiwan for 6 years. I came back. In between, I became a professor, a director of a mission center at Gordon Conwell. So I've been a pastor, I've been a missionary, I've been a professor, a director of missions. Now my call is to mobilize the church for missions. Before, it was the Western missionaries coming to Asia, like Hudson Taylor and many others who came and laid down their lives. And that's why we have churches all across Asia. 150 years ago, 200 years ago, a lot of young people came. Now the Asian church has grown, and now we have young people that we want to send. And I'll share with you my time as a missionary in China about how God started a mission movement inside of China. So you can get a little picture of my own experience as a missionary in China and working with the Chinese church in China as they caught their vision. But before I do that, I want to show you a video, and maybe we can